So the Religious Liberty Commission in Washington, D.C. just held a panel on anti-Semitism, and they invited people across America to talk about what's going on. And it turns out that in the line of questioning, one of the members of this commission, this panel, is a woman by the name of Carrie Pregin Boller, who basically was challenging them on, whether being against Israel and its right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. And she says, because in her case, her Catholicism does not permit for supporting Israel's right to exist. Now, just think about that. You don't need to believe, and I'll show you the clip in a moment, you don't need to believe that Israel is an unfolding part of divine destiny, even though I find it bizarre how you can reach that conclusion reading the Bible and God's eternal covenant with the Jews and his promise of scattering them and returning them. But let's leave that all to one side. I do wonder, as Leslie Kajomovitz asks, since Carrie was very clear that she is an anti-Zionist and that her position is based on the claim that as a Catholic she doesn't believe Israel has any biblical significance, I have to ask, number one, where are Jews allowed to have a state then? And number two, are Jews only permitted to have a state with the approval of Catholics and their doctrines? Oh, and no, stating the obvious, that there are dozens of Muslim and Christian states in the world is not Islamophobic. It's reality. What on earth are you talking about? Anyway, have a watch of the clip and then I'll see you on the other side because I have some further comments about this whole thing. Have a watch.
Thank you. Mr. Frankel, this is for you. You described very painful experiences at UCLA, and I take that very serious. At the same time, many of the students who I've spoken to personally who created those encampments say that they were protesting the killing of tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians in Gaza and their university's financial ties to that war. So I need to ask you, in a country built on religious liberty in the First Amendment, do you believe someone can stand firmly against anti-Semitism, including what you experienced, and at the same time condemn the mass killing of Palestinians in Gaza, or reject political Zionism, or not support the political state of Israel? Or do you believe that speaking out about what many Americans view as genocide in Gaza should be treated as anti-Semitic? Because in my view, the United States cannot and must not make loyalty to a particular theology about Israel a litmus test for protected speech or moral legitimacy.
Charlie Kirk said that Jew hate is brain rot. Some people don't have brains. I'm not going to assist them in setting a double standard for the Israeli government and the Jewish people as they fight to defend themselves. These were students calling for intifada within days after October 7th, before Israel had even entered Gaza. So it's not about them and their using Palestinian civilian death, which is horrendous and horrible. They're using it as a prop, and it doesn't matter. My religious beliefs are violated. You don't get to block me because I'm Zionist and a Jew. You want to protest Israel? Great, 100% go ahead and do it. But the university let them wear masks, even though there's a mask ban. They violated all time, place, and manner restrictions, amplified sounds. It went on for years. They kept doing this time after time again. And that's what the judge saw and said, that's not okay. They can protest, they can't block Jews, and you can't assist them in doing it.
I'm really grateful that we're having this discussion because I think this is a topic that is really affecting so many Americans. Rabbi Shapiro, he's based in New York. I invited him here today, but he's not here today. He says, and I would love your opinion on this, American Jews are increasingly treated as less fully American, our loyalty questioned, our belonging made conditional, because Zionist ideology falsely claims Israel is the nation state of Jews everywhere, and that every Jew is nationally tied to it. He says, this framing is anti-Semitic at its core. It strips us of our identity as Americans, recasts us as foreigners in our own country, and arms anti-Semites with accusations of divided loyalties and collective guilt for actions we neither chose nor control. No other foreign country does this. No sovereign state claims to politically represent an entire worldwide group defined by religion or heritage and bind its members to its deeds. Yet Jews alone bear this unique, unjust burden. That dangerous lie must be rejected openly and firmly. The remedy is clear: civic education that teaches unconditional American belonging through citizenship alone, not ethnicity, heritage, or any fabric fabricated foreign tie. We are Americans, full stop, and we reject any doctrine that treats us otherwise. Would you say that statement is anti-Semitic?
What I'll say is that Natan Sharansky says there's three things that you shouldn't do with Israel. You shouldn't delegitimize it, you shouldn't demonize it, and you shouldn't apply a double standard. You can abide by those three things, you're not anti-Semitic.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism
Hold on
anti-Semitism?
one second, Carrie.
Yes.
It is? It is?
Sorry.
Yes.
To take that point for a second.
Let me back up. I didn't want to step over that answer. I didn't know you were still, both of you, still talking. So
Just to be clear, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
Yes.
It is? Under IHRA?
Rabbi,
Sure.
you're up next.
You're not
That
sure?
definition,
So
but
what is the
I would
definition?
love to speak to that. Undoubtedly, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and undoubtedly, and one does not have to support the specific policies of the government of Israel, but to not support the right of Israel to exist, which is what anti-Zionists do, while not taking that same stand to the 28 Muslim countries and 13 Christian countries in this world, is a double standard, is hypocrisy, and is absolutely anti-Semitism.
I think it's also important that we not make Islamophobic remarks while we're here today. I would appreciate that.
I just want to
Since this
say,
is a religious liberty hearing.
God forbid was anything like that said. But if you deny, if the Jewish people are the only people that you deny the right to have its own state, that is absolutely a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites because they don't?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt the discussion. Our committee is focused on religious liberty taken from all people, whether they be Muslims, Jews, Christians, Sikhs. We've had all those witnesses here. This is not a commission on defining religions or calling out any theology, or this is not the commission for that.
Right, but we're
so
talking
you
about
were-
a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If I don't support the political state of Israel, am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered, asked and
Yes.
answered.
According to you on the record, yes? If I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people, but what I'm saying is, if somebody states if somebody says they're an anti-Zionist, they are saying about themselves that they have a double standard and hypocrisy, and they're taking anti-Semitic positions.
Okay. Carrie, you feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance, and I'm Catholic.
Catholics support the Muslims.
Yeah. Dr. Ben.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your passionate stance and bringing some clarity to this issue. I've known a lot of Jewish people, worked with a lot of Jewish people, some of the finest people that I know.
I have to say that, first of all, to be lectured on what is and isn't anti-Semitic, and that as a Catholic, we don't believe you Jews have a right to a home. After nearly 2,000 years of the Catholic Church persecuting the Jews, of inquisitions and blood libels and crusades, ghettos, massacres. Now we're going to be lectured by them on our right to our home, on our rights to the land of Israel. I mean, honestly, the fact that we had what was called the Nostra Aetate, where the Catholic Church suddenly decides after 2,000 years of stating that the Jews are collectively responsible for the killing of Jesus, even though Jesus himself was a Jew. Many Jews opposed it. And the story, for all kinds of reasons, there's questions to be asked. The idea that the Jews collectively all said, "His blood be upon us and upon our children forever." I don't know what planet one is living on and thinking, why would Jews possibly say that? Anyway, putting all that to one side. So after 2,000 years of you stating that we're all collectively guilty, and now you have the audacity to say, oh, sorry, we actually changed our mind on that, in the aftermath of the Holocaust. And historians are clear, by the way, that the anti-Semitism that was pushed in the Catholic Church and in certain Christian doctrines, that laid fertile soil for the Holocaust, for Hitler's messaging. Historians are clear about that. Do your research and you'll see. So you're now going to lecture us and say, no, actually we're wrong about that. Sorry, you have lost the right to lecture us about anything, quite frankly. And I say this with understanding that there's plenty of Christians, including Catholics, that are pro-Jewish, that support Israel, that don't have these views, that are good and decent people. But I'm talking about as an institution, this notion that we're somehow going to expect to take with any moral authority an institution that has behaved so immorally. Well, we're not going to go along with that. More than that, we actually say that it's time that the roles become reversed and that people and institutions start looking to the Jews for moral clarity. That's what the Jews are meant to be, the light to the nations. When it's the other way around, it leads to chaos and disorder and falsehood. And by the way, I have no doubt that this lady here is, she may well be open to these points of views, and that maybe this, what she says, just comes from certain theology that she's been exposed to. So that's why we're going to keep doing what we're doing on this channel and explain to people something that many Christians actually understand, that when God says, I have an eternal covenant with you, if he breaks that, then no covenant is worth the paper that it's written on. The covenant is not conditional, by the way, on behavior. God says explicitly in Deuteronomy, at the end of days, you'll be scattered around the world, but yes, I will return you at the end of days. It's all made clear. The prophets make that clear. It's all there. So I don't really know what Bible you're reading. It also happens to be that, yes, even if you put that to one side, as was said throughout this commission, if you say there's only one country on earth whose very existence I question, and it happens to be the Jewish one, given that the Jews are frankly the only people really that have faced consistent exterminationist persecution throughout its history. And it just happens to be that the one state today whose very existence is questioned, and that's the Jewish one, when there are states that are less old than the re-establishment of the State of Israel, much more messy. Actually really wasn't that messy. This notion that the Jews came in and kicked everyone out, that's not what happened. There were Jews that always maintained a presence there, even before Islam existed. And then Jews started returning en masse from the 1800s onwards through legal land purchases. And then the UN said, okay, let's divide the land into two. The Jews are the only ones that had their own state there thousands of years ago, but there are lots of Arabs here. Arabs, by the way, emphasis on the word Arabs, they didn't call them Palestinians. So they said, we'll have a Jewish state and an Arab state. And the Arabs said, no, we're going to throw the Jews into the sea. And the Jews defended themselves. If you're against that, if you're against the Jews living, if you're against the Jews living in their home, you want to say, well, I'm not against the Jews then? Be my guest. I, frankly, am not so convinced. Just quickly, we've all heard of heaven, hell, and the afterlife, and at some point I'm sure you've given it some thought. But the Jewish view is radically different from almost everything you've been taught, and once you hear it, it will change how you understand life itself. Have a watch of the trailer for our new JTV Plus documentary called Heaven, Hell and the Afterlife, and you can watch the full film right now by clicking the link below in the video description. Across the world, the afterlife is described in simple terms. Heaven above, hell below, the devil waiting to tempt you, and a humanity born in original sin. But Judaism tells a story that is older, deeper, and far more hopeful. Less obsessed with fear and more rooted in purpose. A story where the soul is not born guilty, but born noble. Where the body is not the enemy, but the partner. Where the devil isn't God's rival, but his assistant, because Judaism has no second power. Where hell exists, but not forever. Where heaven exists, but not as the final destination. And where the real end of the human story is resurrection, not escape. Judaism views history as a mission, not a mistake. Other civilizations teach that we are here to earn our way into heaven. Judaism teaches that we are here to bring heaven down to earth. And to understand what happens after we die, we first have to understand why we're here in the first place. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to reveal the Jewish vision of life after death. One of the most misunderstood ideas, but if understood correctly, can transform your very understanding of life itself. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.